So several months ago, I posted a POV video from inside the Cup Car 2.0 rig, and the very first comment on the video, it'd be really cool if the drink button on the wheel worked. And I thought about it, and I was like, that's ridiculous. And then I was like, I'm gonna do that. And then I really thought about it, and I was like, what other buttons in the sim rig should function, but don't actually do what they're supposed to, that I can make do that? So today, we're going to start working on answering that question, and we very well may spark a new one. How far is too far when it comes to DIY sim rig electronics? For this first video, we're going to dive into some custom state LEDs for the race car, some fully adjustable cooling fans, not WinSim, but actually controllable fans, and of course, a drink system. Now I'm going to be honest with you guys. When I first started this project, I thought it was going to be a lot easier to get this stuff to work through something like SimHub. I love SimHub. I thought it was a lot more adjustable than it is when it comes to custom functions from an Arduino board. Turns out it's not that simple, and realistically what I ended up doing was creating my own software to operate all this stuff. Now I'll dive deep into the software later in the video, but what I will tell you guys up front is it was practically impossible to find a simple solution to controlling an Arduino function from a button box on a sim rig. Something I would have thought would have existed easily is actually not really that readily available. So I created my own that's super simple and really quick to set up. Now you guys know I always share the STL files and any of the codes that I create on the TWE membership pages. They're typically available to base members. All the stuff I've already created will continue to be available on the base membership, but for stuff from this video going forward, it'll all be available on the TWE premium membership. Things are getting a little more expensive. It's getting a lot more time consuming. And I just had to up things a little bit to try to continue the progression and be able to keep making these projects better. So if you guys are looking for the new stuff, it'll be on TWE Premium. If you guys want anything that was already on the rig prior to this video, it's all available in the base membership. Now, before we jump in and start building, I have one more really important piece of information to share with you guys. I am very novice when it comes to building electronics for the sim rig. I do so to give ideas and also to give feedback on things I should be doing better. But when it comes to electrical, I definitely don't use all the right fuses and things that I probably should use to make it completely safe. I keep an emergency shutoff button right next to my seat on the rig that'll cut the power to any DIY stuff on the rig. I also have an active fire extinguisher on the rig, both for looks and in case something actually goes wrong. Just using 5-volt systems for LEDs, I have melted wires and had things get really hot that could potentially have turned into a fire hazard. For 2 out of the 3 things in this video, I'm going to be using 12-volt systems, which makes it even more sketchy because we're dealing with more power. So at the end of the day, if you guys don't know what you're doing, I would highly recommend not following me blindly. Like I said, I do this to inspire and create new ideas and also to get the feedback on what I could do better. Now, I apologize for that long but highly necessary intro to this video. Let's get into building, and we'll start with the brains of the whole operation. So let me start by explaining the brains of this whole thing. This Arduino board right here is going to control everything that we're going to put onto the rig. And I've already wired it up. As you guys can see, it's soldered, ready to go. And I'm just going to run you guys through how I've wired it. So starting up at the top with pins 9 and 10, these are each going to be a blue wire for the PMW for the fans. Ultimately, what I've learned is trying to run PMW through the MOSFET board is really choppy and messy. So these have been retuned to 25 hertz frequency, so hopefully the fan control will work better. And having that separate PMW rather than trying to run it through a MOSFET should help stabilize everything, but we're going to find out. Now on pin 8, I've got my green wire for my LEDs. This is basically the wire that tells it what to do with the LEDs. I've also got the red wire for the LEDs going to the VCC. It's not recommended to do this. They tell you not to run your LEDs powered off of Arduino. I've done it with bigger strips. I'm going to take the chance and do it, but just know that it's not a recommended process to do that. Then, of course, the ground wire for the LEDs also runs into the wire nut for the ground. You'll see I have all of my ground wires running into this wire nut. They're all shared. Now, moving down to pin 7, I've got my water pump on pin 7, and it's grounded to the wire nut. And then 6 and 5 are each set of fans, so each one will run to the MOSFET board that controls 2 fans each for a total of 4 fans. So basically we've got fans, LEDs, and water pump all on the Arduino board right here. So whether you're wiring the pump or the fans, the process for the MOSFET board's pretty much the same. This is the MOSFET board, and on this side you have your power in, so basically whatever power supply you're using will run into this side. Then you have your power out. So in the case of the fans of the pumps, you'd have your hot and ground wire running out to the pump. And then up here, you've got ground and your trigger or PMW, depending on which way you use it. In this case, or for all three, I'm just going to be using it as a trigger. I won't be using PMW on these. So we'll go ahead and wire this up real quick. So I have a male connector, but I used female connectors on the Arduino. And basically, you guys might be able to see it here. I've got my ground side and my trigger side. So black wire is going to go to the ground. Red wire to the trigger. Don't really need all this excess wire. It just gets in the way of soldering. So go ahead and cut that off. If you guys aren't familiar with Fanatec, their tools have been awesome. I'm not promoting it in a sense that like I work with them or anything, but just as somebody who builds quite a bit of stuff, I have like their electric screwdriver, wireless solder. Like this thing's been awesome. And honestly, the wireless solder works really, really well. All right, so with the little cleanup, I got the wires on there. For some reason, I've been struggling with the ground wire on these. I don't know why, but every time I go to solder it, it just like it doesn't want to stick well. But I was able to get it in there. So now the rest of this is pretty straightforward. And take the power cord, get it wired in. Just as simple as plugging in the wires, tightening the little screw on top. Make sure those are nice and snug. And then we'll take the fan wire. We're going to use 3 wires on this, but only 2 are going to go onto this board. So we've got the power and the ground that we're going to use. Slide the power in place. I'm going to tighten these separate because they're a little more jumpy than the power cord was. Got that one locked in and push the ground up in. Now, like I said, that's pretty much all you need to do to wire the fans and the pump. So you've got power going into the MOSFET, power going from the MOSFET to the fan, and the wires that'll go to the Arduino board to tell it when to turn on the fan and turn it off. We won't use the green wire at all, and the blue wire will be our PMW control. For the fan box, I went ahead and designed basically a fan box that allows 2 fans to kind of aim at the front port. There will be a little bit of back pressure from it, but I wanted to get as much air out of this port as I possibly could while still keeping it relatively low profile. So for the fans, I recently decided that I wanted RGB back in my PC, and that left me with 4 extra Noctua fans. And honestly, I've had a blower on the rig for so long, and it's really loud, so I'm actually pretty stoked to get some nice quiet Noctua fans on. As you guys will see, just pop right in place here. And for the screws, I have 30mm bolts that'll go in, and they should line up and slide right in there. I am short a 30mm bolt, so I'm hoping to be able to use a 40, but I may run into the bolt just being a little too long. Cool, I wasn't sure if a 40 would fit, but it did. So I'll do 140 and 3 30s on one side, and then do the same on the other. And there it is, fan housing, 2 fans. And then to mount it to the rig, I designed these mounts that just screw right into the top. They're meant to line up with an 80/40 aluminum profile. So the fan will mount sideways on my monitor mount. Should work pretty well. So we'll get all those installed. Now, as I mentioned before, the process for the MOSFET on the pump is pretty much the same as the fans. We've got our leads going to the Arduino board, power in, power to the pump. Over here, I've got the pump. You can see it's set up to plug right into the board here. We'll go ahead and get this put into the housing. Like I said, Fanatec stuff, completely awesome. Not affiliated in any way. Just love the product. So once that's in, I can connect the MOSFET board and push that down into the housing. All right, guys, so I know it looks like a mess, but I got everything hooked up so that we can test it before it goes on the rig. Obviously, I'm going to redo the wiring harness. I'll clean everything up, use some tape to get all these wires cleaned and organized once I extend them and get everything run where I need it. But for now, we're just going to have a little bit of chaos. I brought back the 991 button box so we could test it. So let's start by checking the ignition lights. The lights do exactly as they're supposed to. During ignition, I wanted a spinning red and a yellow. You guys will see where those go later on though. And then at startup, when the engine starts, everything goes to red. So that's functioning fine. Test the fans. Fan speed high, fan speed medium, and fan speed low. So we have working fans. The fan speeds are not an issue anymore. We'll go ahead and cut the fans off. We can start them at low. No stutter, no noise, super quiet, exactly what I wanted. And I have it set for a very quick pump test so I don't run it without water for too long. And I got vibration out of the pump. So everything's ready to go on the rig. Once it's on, I could show you guys the process for setting it up in the new software I designed. By the way, the yellow button's a kill switch that kills everything. So now I've got a physical kill switch and an electrical kill switch. If that doesn't tell you my level of confidence, I don't know what's going to. But seriously, if you don't know what you're doing, don't try this at home. All right, guys, so everything's connected to the rig. I'm gonna take you guys over there and show you in just a minute. But the thing with it is, I didn't have everything I needed to make the second set of fans work today. So I did mount it. I'll show you guys where it's at, and I'll explain that whole situation when we get over there and I show you everything else. But first, I want to show you guys the TWE SimTech controller. This is the new software I created to manage everything. And the thing with this software is, it's available to anybody who pays for 1 month of TWE Premium. Basically, you pay for 1 month, you get the software for however long you want, whether you stick around or not. But the one thing with it is, it's as is beta software, and it's used at your own risk. So that's up to you guys. Make sure you read the disclaimers on it. So let's check out the software. This is the TWE SimTech controller, and like I said, it's very easy and straightforward to use. So right now the Arduino COM port that's showing is actually my 911 button box, so I'm not going to connect to it. But if my other Arduino with all the functions that I want to control was on here, I would just select that COM port, connect directly to it. Down here below, you'd have a list of every one of your controllers. So I have about 6 on the sim rig that would show up. On this PC, I only have the 911 button box, so it's showing the 911 button box right here. And down below, you have your full list of functions. You can have up to 15 functions, and you can set them to either pulse or toggle. So a pulse is literally just a button push and it activates that function. If you want to have it turn it on and off, then you set it to toggle and set both options. So for example, I have fan high and fan off. So if I were to push button 10 and the fans were connected, it would turn them on and off. I have ignition on and off, engine on and off, and this is just 2 separate light sequences. So I program one to the ignition on the rig. So when I turn on the ignition, it not only turns on the sim rig, but also puts in a LED sequence. And then when I start the car, it not only starts, but also puts in an LED sequence. I have the kill switch. This will literally kill anything connected to the Arduino board electronically. Like I said, I also have a physical kill switch. The pump, the way I programmed it is basically it'll run in milliseconds. So typically we would do like 1500. 100 was that short test that I shared earlier. There is a pump off option. I don't really like it. Should run real quick and shut off. That's the way it's coded in Arduino. It'll only run for a specific amount of time. And the reason for that is, first off, you want the exact amount to take a drink. You don't want to drown yourself or have water leaking everywhere. So I found that 1500 milliseconds is about right. And then of course, different fan speeds. I could also program more LEDs, which is something I'm going to do later on. And no matter what function it is that I put into this, as long as it's programmed into the Arduino board and there's a call sign for it or a command for it, it's going to be able to be programmed to this software just simply by typing in the command and assigning it a key capture or a controller capture. Down below, you can save and load configurations. It will save your last known configurations, auto connect to your COM port, do all that. So you can set it to boot on startup. You could set it to minimize in the tray. So when I minimize it, it actually goes away and isn't down in your start bar. And then anything that it's supposed to interact with, you can actually see the log down here so that you know that it's physically working. All right, now over here on the sim rig, you guys, first off, probably were wondering what the LED lights were all about. Over here on the side, you guys can see the ECU box that is actually just power cords running into it, but I'm working on fancying it up so it looks good. That's where all the DIY plugs go that are powered by this switch. So basically, I wanted them close by so I had control of the power. And also, having an ECU box just makes the rig look a little more legit. Down below that, you can see the second control box right here. This is actually where the Arduino board's at that we just built and wired up. So everything that we just put together is right here in this box. Like it all runs right here. It's all controlled right here. And it just has wires that I extended out to get to where it needed to on the rig. So now when I turn on the ignition, my little control box has like a red light spinning, basically saying like booting up. Got a yellow light flashing. And then when the car starts or the engine button is pressed, they go red. And these are queued up with what's in game. So these are the same switches I use in game. I am going to do a new start button where there's supposed to be one on the new dash. But for right now, the start button's over here just temporarily. Now, as far as the second fan, this box wasn't going to work for the fan. So that's why it's not hooked up right now. I did print a new box that's bigger and more functional, but I had an issue with the printer. It failed. So I'm going to be reprinting that tonight so that I can get this up and functional. I've got the hose that I also had to wait on. So now with the hose here, getting this replaced, I'll be able to have a fully functional fan over here. Over on this left side, this is where the fan that actually functions is. So when I hit the fan button, it comes on. I get good airflow, like I can feel that pretty good on my face. It's not necessarily as much air as the blower, but I think between that and having the second fan on the right side, it's going to move a lot more air through here than the blower did, and I'm going to get it from two different directions. But the one problem with the fan situation right now is they're probably mounted a little too high to get the coolest air, and I'll show you guys what I mean. I decided to mount these right here behind the monitors. So as you can see, they're up kind of high. They're close to hot monitors. They're not too far away from the PC. Like ultimately, my goal is to get them down lower. Ideally, maybe under the pedals down there once I build the pedal housing, because I do have a whole housing that I need to build. I'm just waiting on new pedals to come in. Once I have those, then I can kind of figure out what to do with the orientation. But I'm thinking I might bolt the fans down underneath the pedals or somewhere around that area, somewhere where it's cooler down lower, where heat's not rising up to it or spitting out of the PC. Just kind of a long-term thought. And the other fans are mounted pretty much in the same spot. Now you guys already know, before we can take this thing for a test run, there's still one more thing we got to test, and that's the drink system. So I set this thing to a 1500 millisecond run. Hopefully that's enough water. Let's check it out. That was actually perfect. It's a nice sip. It's not too much. Comes out pretty consistent. Works awesome. Now let's go for a drive. As you guys saw, the water line runs to the seat. It goes along this roll bar back here, around to the back of the rig, down to the bottom. And you guys can see right here, this water bottle. The pump's right here. So the line runs from the water bottle to the pump, out of the pump, and up around to where I drink from. All right, guys, so let's give everything a little test run. First off, ignition, turned on the overhead lights, turned on the two LED rings, got everything up and running. All the functions show ignition off, or ignition's on, engine's off. Go ahead and start the car. I got engine lights going red. Everything's showing as if the car is running now. Very functional. I have full control over my fans now. And I have to say, it's super convenient and nice to have a fan that I can actually use with a microphone on, because before, the fan or the blower that I had would have been way too noisy for this. So being able to stay cool is nice. The Noctua fans actually put out quite a bit of air working together. And I'm pretty confident that once I get the other two fans working, this is gonna feel really good. Just need to reprint the button box to be able to fit it. As far as everything else goes, rig's functioning really well. Looks amazing with the wheel. And I think I'm one of the few people that can say I'm not going to get thirsty while driving. That is nice. So this was one of those projects where the build just got way out of hand and got way more complex than I anticipated it being. Like, I had this simple concept in my mind of 3 things that I thought I'd be able to make work just by connecting an Arduino board and programming it, and it turned into a whole thing. So as basic as these 3 upgrades might seem, 2 out of 3 of them were actually very time consuming because they required creating a whole software just to operate it, which is absolutely absurd to me, but nonetheless, it exists now, and you guys have access to it and can use it. Now, there's another ridiculous request that I got that I'm not going to tell you guys what it is, but I'm thinking I'm probably going to share that one in the next video. It's something just, I would almost call it asinine. It's not like a normal kind of like thing you would think of to do with the sim rig, but it will take immersion to the next level. It's goofy, but the request was also very accurate. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys in the next video. If you guys haven't hit that subscribe button to follow Cupcar 2.0, make sure you hit it now and ring the bell so you get updates when the next video comes out. And until next time, I'll see you guys out on the track.